I don't know why Nick's not been doing this and everything. All right, folks, you know I'm a big fan of this particular show, and all along those lines, I'm going to bring in Irene, and she's going to have a great conversation with y'all, and all along those lines, because I know she is a big time activist, as am I, and all along those lines. So I'm glad we've got Nick here with us as well. But I know y'all are in for a great conversation for about an hour and everything along those lines. So definitely looking forward to this conversation. So I'm going to bounce off and let Irene take it over and all in that space. But she knows I'm a big fan of hers. I look forward to learning more about the folks that she's brought in as her guests on this particular day.
Well, and Mark, can you confirm that you can hear me because my screen went blank?
I can hear you, but it does look like you have gone a little bit on the. I'm not seeing you move around and everything, so it looks like you've frozen. But I can definitely hear you, so we can hear you.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll just keep talking then, and as long as we can see our guests, I'm happy. And thank you for introducing us. I am in New York City, right by JFK area, JFK Airport at a Marriott hotel. So you would think they would have better connectivity, but we're going to do the best we can. And I'll start by introducing our guests. I'm going to introduce first Ron Roberts, and I will hold off having him explain his company, Sage Marketing, and go ahead and introduce Julie, who owned at Oakmont. And Julie, let's just, since we're using you as an example of a typical person that calls in, let's start with having you explain how you ended up on the show today.
Oh, okay. Well, like Irene said, I had owned somewhere else, and I went to Oakmont, and they kind of encouraged me to jump on their bandwagon for a different program, to buy into a different program that supposedly had more flexibility and opportunities for me to vacation. I haven't hardly used it at all because I found it very confusing and cumbersome, but time gets away from you, and you tend to put off things that are confusing and difficult, and you don't make the calls. And so I started to look into possibly how I could get out of my maintenance fee. I don't have a loan on or anything like that, just maintenance fees. And somehow I got hooked up to the Facebook group about canceling timeshare. And then I learned about TARDA, and then I connected to Irene, and she's been giving me some nice guidance about some things to try. And she introduced me to Ron, and he is also giving me some guidance and direction. And we're just trying to navigate how to get out of Oakmont. They told me they do not have an exit program. They told Ron they do have an exit program. So we're in the journey of trying to sort that out at this time. But I'm really grateful to just have somebody to about the the whole process and what's helped some people and what other timeshares have and don't have. So I'm learning a lot.
Well, and thank you for sharing that. And then Sharon and I kind of go way back because Sharon contacted me also about a situation she had, and she's now since then become our TARDA's secretary of our board of directors. And not only that, since we have gotten to know each other, we both went through the buddy system to get our Florida real estate license. And Sherida works in Marriott timeshare resales and rentals now that does have a responsible exit and some resale value. But we're going to hold off on your colony's nightmare, Sherida, and you're here to listen to our legend today is Ron Roberts, who has spent an extraordinary 45 years in the timeshare industry. And that's such a remarkable accomplishment. Ron, if you could, number one, a little bit about what it's been like being in the timeshare. And we do have a lot of this show is in 123 countries. with 2.3 million viewers on Roku, Amazon.com. And, while I'm disclosing, I know that we're supposed to disclose that we're not lawyers. And if you do need legal advice, you should contact a lawyer. But our volunteers with TARDA, we can talk to somebody like Julie and make sure she's talking to honest people, because there are so many scams out there now. There's about, it seems like every day there's a new scam. So, Ron, after you've discussed a little bit about what it was like working in timeshares in Europe and America, a little bit about Sage Marketing and what they do and their history. So let us hear how you've evolved over the years in this industry.
Well, thank you very much, Irene. Thank you, Julie and Karita. It's been quite a journey. It's been fun. It's been very, very interesting. And I originally started as a salesperson. I didn't know much about it. Didn't know how to spell the word timeshare. And when somebody told me that you chop this condominium into 52 weeks and sell it by the week, I said, well, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. So I got to talking with the fellow, and I said, this actually sounds like fun. And so that's led me to working for some major companies and working in projects in Africa, Europe, South America, Central America, the Caribbean, United States, all over Canada, and over the years, 30-something states, and very close to 30 different countries from the consulting. And we're a contract marketer. I'm kind of not really in the resale business, but I do resales for a couple of properties. And it's been a very much an eye-opener for me to get the calls and listen to the stories of what's happened to the owners of these timeshare weeks over the years. And we were always told it's a piece of real estate and you can sell it at any time. And that happens to be 95% not true. And a lot of the consumers who have bought somehow had an interest in possibly selling after some time due to whatever their reasons are. And they're finding out that that process is much more difficult than it was they were led to believe. And I field these calls every day. I do resales in a couple of properties right now. And I do hear a lot of different stories, and I have a general compassion toward making sure that we help them out. And I can't get into individual fixes that some people are in with their timeshare, other than today to spend the hour, if we can, coming up with solutions, suggestions, and some possible avenues for people who want to buy, want to sell, need to sell, need to get out for whatever their reasons are, medical, financial, or whatever the reason is. Showing you some shortcuts and some possibilities and some avenues that may very well help. I'm not. Hello.
Oh, shoot. I gotta take this call. Sorry. How do I do this?
Okay. Anyway, that's where. Oh.
This is live.
Anyway, we very much want to help people, and in the end, I can only give limited advice to people who are not in our system where the resorts that we work at, but we are available to make the suggestions that will hopefully help people who, for whatever their reason is, need to get it sold and rid themselves of it, or maybe in the end buy some more stuff. So that's what we're about.
And can you give us an example of a resort that's doing everything right? That does have a responsible exit and will help owners in Julie's situation.
Yes, that's a good question. There are about 1,500 to 1,700 resorts out there. A lot of them are owned by the brands. The brands in general tend to have some sort of a remediation resale, what I would call some kind of take back program or something that will help these owners. And what the owners have to probably understand is that if it's deeded, it gets a little more complicated. There's a transfer fee, there's recording fees, and there's attorney's fees and title company, and probably a certain amount of advertising. And we experience that every week here at our company, because we have to field those calls and then take and get that unit to be sold. And we now know and understand that there are a number of costs involved, and so a consumer trying to deed it back or whatever their situation is should be prepared to come out of pocket for something, but not necessarily the kinds of costs that I see some of these companies charging a listing and advertising fee of $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. Our recommendation is that you stay away from that. We are not attorneys, and we are not trying to give legal advice to anybody, but we can only give guidance and give you our best recommendation for what it is that we need to do. And in the end, I hear a lot of my husband passed away, my wife has cancer, we're going to go to a nursing home, we have financial difficulties. I hear it all week long. I get those calls, and we do our very best. We don't have any upfront fees of any kind that we ever charge the seller, ever. And in the end, we hope that makes a difference and keeps us separate from the companies that are out there looking for fees, which is the wrong way to approach it. Not
and
having
let me interject something there, just so for people that might be tuning in for the first time and trying to see how it's structured, is back in 2015, when I felt something wasn't right, I reached out to a licensed timeshare broker. So there are aptly named the Licensed Timeshare Resale Broker Association. We sometimes call them LATURBA, and they charge no upfront fees.
Yep.
And so and just like a traditional real estate agent, and Sherida is one, that they will charge you at closing whatever their commission would be, and it's pretty negotiable. If it's I know with one company that's very reputable, if they're going to list it for under, say, $1,000, whatever they get, they split, because it's not, if they can only sell it for $500, it's not worth it charging $1,500 commission. That's different from Sell My Timeshare Now or Timeshares Only. And we had, after last week's show, someone reached out and they paid Buy a Timeshare $1,000. And this is what happened to Sherida, where her timeshare sales agent says, "Oh, I have a friend that can help you sell your Westgate so you can afford to buy at Vacation Village," and listed it for $37,000, which is ridiculous. So this is the same thing. Buy a Timeshare Now to justify their $1,000. Suggested they list her. I don't know if they suggested or not, but they wanted to list for $15,000 their Grandview Vacation Village. Sherida, I was just mentioning that your Vacation Village sales agent wanted to have you connect with her personal friend who's a real estate agent and listed your Westgate, paid $299 to list your Westgate, right?
Yep, and then also $199 to list a rental, the bonus week that would come with colonies.
And you paid. So to me, it's proof. If you paid that person that was their personal friend $299, in other words, to justify your fee, if you charge up front, you exaggerate that listing price. So now, Ron, one thing I want to ask you is, I didn't hear a name of somebody that's doing it right. So I'm going to go ahead and provide. We had a future guest when we had Timeshare Talks a few years ago. We had Jake Baku from Tahoe Beach and Ski. And that's not to be confused with the Tahoe Beach, Tahoe Ski Resort next door that's owned now by Hilton Grand Vacations. This is a legacy resort. And they do have a rental program. They do have a resale program to assist people that want to get out. So, Ron, why is it that you have a resort like that, but you then have Vacation Village or Great Eastern or Tahiti Village Soleil Management that will not accept a deed back even if you're in a coma and pass away?
I'd like to move away from naming people that are complying or not complying with the theme of this whole thing, and really what we're about is offering you solutions and hoping that as an informed consumer, you make the right decision as to who to list with. There are a number of timeshare outlets out there. Redweek.com does a very good job. They are inexpensive to join.
Tug?
An ad is sorry.
Timeshare Users Group, Tug?
Tug, yes, Tug is another one, and I'm a member of Tug, and there's a number of other outlets out there, including timeshare resale brokers, and it's up to you to find out what's the best deal, and just use your head and be an informed consumer. And in the end, I want to go back to your original question, which is if they don't offer a resale program, what are the implications of that? Well, I don't want to talk about the brands because they offer in general, and whether what they do is fair or expensive or not fair, I don't have any comment about that whatsoever. I really am addressing this toward the legacy timeshare resorts that are out there, which do not have a resale program of any kind. And what I've found out that they do is when somebody calls in and says, my husband passed away, what do? I can't afford this. I'm on Social Security. If that resort sends them out to the internet, that's exactly the wrong thing and the exact wrong way to handle an inquiry by one of your owners who's been faithful and paid you maintenance fees for the last 15 or 20 years. Sending them out to the internet invites that consumer and that owner that you should be loyal to get in trouble, because people don't know the difference between what's a scam sometimes and what isn't. And I don't want to talk about any particular company or anything like that. What I'd like to do is suggest that if you're a consumer and you have some reason to get out of your timeshare, whatever the reason is, medical, or you've lost interest in traveling, or you have a financial difficulty, be careful and do what's right. But when I get the answers from these companies, and once in a while, because I advertise a little bit, and they call me and say, what does having a resale program entail? And certainly it depends on the resort, and it depends on the location, and it depends on where it is, and what they have for amenities and activities. And it also depends on how many dead weeks you have. Because if you have 150 dead weeks, that's not the end of the world. When you have 1,200 dead weeks, that's a problem. And so the solutions, which we offer a free initial consultation and analysis for you, which we give to anybody who asks us. And basically, not offering a resale program is a serious and often fatal mistake that's made by the board of directors of these homeowners associations. And sending them to the internet as a solution is not a solution. It's putting them in a deeper problem in a lot of cases.
Well, and it's not, and to clarify, sending them to the internet is basically saying find a buyer. And I want to introduce you, Ron, just to one of our chatters today. Jeremy from Destination Timeshares has been on our show before, and he loves the industry, just like we all do when it's sold properly. And he basically has a lot of Marriott, and he's a timeshare owner, but he's also an expert, and he chatted here. The problem with many weeks is that they are worth zero. The weeks will languish with all the other listings out there. Many sites, not even the upfront ones, have hundreds of the same timeshares for sale, and informing people of the real value is what is important. Just like the person that called right before we were going to start the show, that paid $10,000 to $12,000 for a branded timeshare, financed at 17%, that you said could have been purchased for $1,500. So it's the importance of this. So now, with Julie, let's go back to Julie. How would you approach a resort that now says they may or may not have a program, but let's say they're one of the resorts that say find a buyer? Okay, and how would you approach them? Would it be an on-site or would it be an off-site? And any success stories you can share about somebody that might have had 1,200 dead weeks that got turned into revenue. It was like 3 questions in one. Ron, can you?
Was that to me? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Like if let's take a resort like Amber with Oakmont, and let's say they were interested in taking 1,200 dead weeks, for example. We don't know how many dead weeks they are, but you just said some of them may have that many. How do you go about? Would you put in an offsite or an on-site? What's the best, and how do you go about it?
Okay, that's a very good question. In the end, if you have 1,200 dead weeks, you're in a very precarious position. Those missing maintenance fees amount to hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue that could be going toward maintenance, upkeep, taxes, insurance, the help that you need to run the resort and clean the pool and mow the lawns. And what a lot of the projects do is they try to rent some of that stuff, which is sometimes successful. But in the end, you've got to have a sales program which is effective, and it has to have a pace of sales that is designed to diminish that substantial load of dead inventory as quickly as possible. And in some cases, that involves an on-site salesperson or 2 or 3. And some of the resorts that a couple I'm handling, we don't have a lot of inventory because they've kept up with it. They've kept up with it because I've been selling it for years. And at any given time, I might not have anywhere from 2 or 3 weeks available to a dozen or half a dozen. And at any point in time, there's some demand that the resorts sometimes don't believe is there. And a lot of the members of the homeowners association, remember that they're volunteers. They might be a retired dentist or a retired barber. And when it comes to having resales, most of them can't even spell the word, so they don't even know how to even begin to go about it, and so they ignore it. And when they ignore it, it gets worse. And when it gets worse, it begins to be a real problem. And eventually, if you keep ignoring it, it bankrupts the property. And so, in the end, we can do it remotely. We can do it in a on-site, hands-on sort of process, which tends to be much faster and easier to do. And what we find is that people who exchange in there, people who rent there, people who are owners there, and the people who are relatives of owners who are staying there, they all contemplate and say, "Hey, I'm having a good time. How much does one of these cost?" And in the end, if you're starting to do resales and you think the inventory is worthless, it's worth something to somebody. What is it worth? It's worth whatever that you can see for a value. But a resale at a non-branded uh, legacy resort um, is not typically worth a lot of money. So if you say, "Oh, I want to sell it for 15 or 20,000," that's never going to happen. You're going to have inventory on your books for a long time doing that. What I do is I sell it for whatever somebody would like to pay. And in this particular case, if you can own a 2-bedroom, 2-bath unit on the water, okay, with nice kitchen, living room, dining room, granite countertops, flat screen TV, and it's not a motel room, not a mediocre motel room, and you can own that for 3,000, a one-time cost of $3,000. That arithmetic is not hard to figure out. You can make it work in your head. You do not even need a $6 calculator to figure it out. But when you say, "I want to do this resale, I want $38,000 for it," and that resort's been there 25 years, somebody better rethink that process, because that does not work. And when we get into this business of resales, some of the brokers out there, they can promise big numbers, but in the end, a timeshare property that's been there for some time, the theory would be to price it so that it moves very quickly. When somebody hands me a 2-bedroom unit, okay, as an annual on the water, I usually make one phone call, 2 phone calls at the most, and in 10 minutes it's sold. It's very simple. Okay, but we do not charge crazy numbers for it. And in about 10 seconds, you can figure out that the arithmetic works. And that's the key to the whole thing. I think a lot of these properties that are out there, they tend to want to ignore the problem, and that makes the problem a lot worse.
Well,
And
I would think too, is since salespeople are paid on commission, and so if you had an on-site program, they have people that just rent these, I want to stay a week at some place, and they just go to Expedia. So they don't even have to really offer a whole lot to get them there. They're just walking in the door. And if the salesman is paid on commission, um, you would think that it wouldn't be that much resistance for a resort to have 1 or 2 people that would be willing to do that.
yes, yeah, it's a very strange phenomenon. This reticence that seems to come. I mean, the brands have figured it out. They know that if you do not operate an operational worthy resale program, that you get too many people who are desperate and they start putting ads out there to sell that timeshare for $1 or $50 or $100. What that does is that diminishes the value of everybody's unit at that property. So if you are smart and you want to keep those ads out of the paper from the desperate people who will sell it for $1, they're worth much more than $1, that's for sure. But why do these people do that? They really need to get out for whatever their urgency is. So not offering a resale program does a terrible amount of damage to the resort and the remaining owners and the value that the owners see in the property. Because as soon as an owner sees that there's a unit for sale that they paid $12,000 for or more, or $30,000, and they see one listed for $1, what does that make you think? You have a less and less of a propensity to want to keep making your maintenance fee payments over the next year or 2 or 3, because you figured out, okay, that this thing isn't worth anything. Maybe I have a good time, maybe I don't. lot of people that I speak with, uh, they very much tend to want to know what their property's worth. Some of them have well delusions. I had a call not a few months ago. I think the fellow originally bought it for a pretty good number, and he listened to what the salesperson told him. It's going to go up about 10% a year. Now that's a fib, first of all, because they don't go up. And he was told it's real estate so that they can sell it at any time, make a whopper of a profit. He wanted me to send him $50,000 for this week that I would normally sell for maybe 2,500 or 3,000. And I said, I'm sorry. I said, I can't get 50,000. Well, can you get me 45,000? I said, no. I said, I've never sold one for that. Even a brand new one, I've never sold for that. And so, if you want to sell it yourself, let me know. We'll help you. But I don't want anything to do if they're unreasonable or delusional. I just can't help them. And
Well, wait a minute though, Sherida. I think I recall that there were some Marriott properties that had kind of a hefty resale value. Can you think of any?
Well, with us, I would say resale is maybe 10% of what they bought it for.
At Marriott?
I think so. I haven't really looked into buying it directly from them, but they do get, a nice chunk of money back. But if you compare it to what they bought it for, I don't think it's phenomenal.
Well, one thing that's interesting though is if you have a legacy week with Marriott, you typically, if it's Aruba or Hilton Head or Newport Coast, you can rent it out for more than your maintenance fees. But if you have points, you're not going to make your maintenance fees back.
That's what Tom says. Yes.
Yeah, and Ron, some of these resorts, Blue Green, Diamond, and well, Hilton, you can rent out your home week, but they are, and Wyndham, they are issuing cease and desist letters for people that are renting out their timeshares, despite the fact that over and over and over, the salesman told me I should buy more points so I could rent them out to cover my costs. So they buy more points and then they get a cease and desist letter. So I think in addition, no one should buy a timeshare unless they buy it from a Marriott, Tahoe Beach and Ski. Ron, I hope you give us an example or two of when you buy a timeshare, making sure you're buying one that allows you to resale. And if you can't use it, rent it out. I know with our Maui Hill, this was the first year since 1984 we didn't use it. And I introduced my daughter to Koala, and Koala was able to rent it out for her for a little bit more than her maintenance fees. And yet, if you have points, you can't do that. So you don't work too much in rentals, but have you rented a few out yourself over the years?
Yeah, I mean, I own some timeshare weeks, and I've rented them. If I have a conflict or something, I have floating time, so I can use it anytime I want. Any one of 52 weeks, I can use any unit on the property. Floating time is the way I would go. Fixed weeks and points become a problem. I don't want to get into the business of deciding whether Marriott or is doing the wrong thing by not allowing or allowing you to do the rental or whatever. If you own a timeshare, if you needed to rent it for some reason because you couldn't use it, nobody should stand in your way of doing that. I do not do rentals. I stay out of the rental business. And in the end, we have a rental company that takes care of that. And typically, when I rent my units, I'm renting it for twice what I paid in a maintenance fee. Twice what I, yeah. So what I'm saying is that it has to be a reasonably choice location, and it has to have some appeal that is generally more than just a mediocre appeal. And usually, if you, and again, a lot of these companies, the brands all do rentals and handle rentals for you. What I'm talking about is the legacy properties out there that are not owned by a brand, and they're a standalone, run by some homeowners association where uh, they are basically don't even have a rental program and they don't have a resale, and the owners are out of luck. And but there are outlets out there to allow you to rent. You can rent through redweek.com, and again, reasonably inexpensive. And if you want to rent it to a friend, a neighbor, family, an acquaintance, somebody you work with, somebody you like, most of the resorts don't interfere with that. And as long as you tell them who's coming down, hand them the key when they get there. They're friends of mine. So I stay out of the rental business, but not having a rental program and not having a resale program sports a lot of problems that can 100% be avoided if they would take the time. But this reticence, I tried to figure out where that comes from, and I spoke with the president of an association, uh, you know, over the 3 or 4 years, and her answer was she had quite a few weeks available, and so we had said to her, "You should have an on-site salesperson to help you with this." And of course, her answer was, uh, "I didn't like my original salesman; he was pushy, and I think he fibbed to me, and I didn't think I liked him anyway, but I ended up buying because I wanted to, and now I'm sorry I did. I wouldn't own here again, and I don't know who would want to buy here, and I don't want a timeshare person within 100 miles a year." Okay, well, if that's the case, then you have an innate reticence that is difficult to overcome, and we can't help you because sometimes it takes you having to deal with that program. For the most part, most of these legacy properties, they don't have to do anything except forward the calls to the resale person and have that resale person take care of it remotely. And if they have some of their inventory that they'd like to get rid of, basically what we do is we mix the inventory that they have with the inventory that the owners need to get rid of, and we'll do one for one, a 50-50 split, and try to, we'll sell an owner's unit, then we'll sell a HOA owned unit. We'll sell an owner's unit and an HOA unit. And if that's an acceptable mix, then that takes care of these people getting very desperate and putting it out there on the open market for $1 and destroying the resort's worth for all the owners. And the homeowners associations should anticipate that and bear that in mind when they refuse to have a resale program, which is something that's desperately needed in some of these places. So,
Well, and we also have, I really want to focus on this because I found it fascinating, is Lemon Juice Capital.
yes.
It's a name that you introduced me to. And there's two examples here. And Shelley was going to try to join us today. She is had a similar experience, but the first example were 5 different lemon juice solutions.
Yes.
And the Yachtsman Resort is one where the first time I heard of them, it was someone that worked as an undercover investigator for the New York Attorney General's office, and he got scammed by Consumer Protection Network, or one of those network consumer protection, they all sound alike. But this is the Yachtsman Resort, and it's on the East Coast, and lemon juice stated in here, less than 30% of their owners were paying maintenance fees. So they have converted that resort to whole use property.
Yep.
And each owner received an average of $3,200 for their week. Remarkable. The other one, and this is related to Shelley, who is, I can't recall the week she has, but it was the same. This was the Bay Club Resort. Okay, this was in Ocean City, Maryland, and there were they extended the sunset provision. So some resorts have a 25-year or a 35-year life, and they are now legislating to get a vote from owners to extend that another 10 years. Well, some people are going to jump for joy and say, great, we can use our timeshare for another 10 years. But then there are those like Shelley, who was hanging on for the 25 years to be up because she got this from her mother and doesn't want it. And unlike the Bay Club, where it says here that those wishing to end their timeshare commitment will receive between $4,000 and $18,000 for their intervals. I mean, so you can either choose to stay or you can get a nice check for your timeshare. Unlike Shelley, I believe it was, well, I don't want to use the wrong, I don't want to say the wrong week, but her resort extended for 10 years and they told her, no, you have to pay maintenance fees for 10 more years. So what has been your interaction with lemon juice? And
Okay, let me first say that Lemon Juice is a repurposer, and their business is taking these resorts that have a smaller and smaller number of paying customers to pay the maintenance fee, with diminishing maintenance fee revenues to cover upkeep, maintenance, taxes, insurance, paying the help, and doing the proper maintenance on the property. Lemon Juice has been around a while. They have a number of properties out there that they convert, and when they convert them and you sell let's all understand that there is a severe housing shortage all across this country, and virtually every state out there has and so when they take these and put them on the market as whole ownership condominiums, that's a valid solution. My friend Joe Tactics does the same thing. He's got 13 or 14 resorts. He's licensed in 42 states, he told me. And he said that business is booming because these homeowners associations have shirked their responsibilities for the last 15 years and refused to help the owners. And so the maintenance revenue go down and down and down and down. And eventually you have no choice but to convert to whole ownership and cease the timeshare regimen. And for somebody that says, well, they extended my timeshare regimen for 10 years, which is, I don't want to get into the particulars of any specific resort, but if the owners voted and the HOA voted to extend it, that means that somebody likes going there and they see a reasonably positive financial outlook for that particular resort. And if that is in fact the case, and everybody wants to keep, I own in Florida and I own a number of weeks down there, and I hope they keep the timeshare regimen long after I'm gone, because my son has told me, Dad, if you ever sell these and you don't turn them over to me, I'll never forget you. That's what he told me.
Well,
literally 2 weeks ago. So I want to have the regimen in place for a long time. And I hope that going past my sunset date, which will come up at some point, I hope they continue to, but we have a big sinking fund. We have brand new roofs. The property's in very good shape and it's beautiful. And by the time it's done, my daughter and my son love going to the property. And I hope they extend the date for 20 or 30 years so my son and my daughter get lots of use out of it after I'm gone. And in the end, whether they extend it or they don't, I can't comment on, because I don't know the details. And if a few people are unenamored because the sunset date got extended for 10 years, and if they don't want to own it, have them do something about getting rid of it and selling it. And if it's a brand, then the brand can usually help them. And what these people have to understand is that uh, these brands, or whether it's an independent organization, those resorts, if you have a deeded property like what that sounds like, is that there's some costs involved, and between the title company and the attorney and the tax to the state and the recording fees and anything else, including a commission and advertising and hard costs and soft costs. I know that I spend a fair amount of money on every sale that I make, okay, to take care of about 2 dozen different costs that I track in my ledger. And when I track those costs, they go up each year. Um, I'm I'm kind of flabbergasted at how much it cost me in each one of them. But in the end, um, I don't mind doing that because in general I make money on some of them. I actually lose money, and I don't discriminate. If somebody gives me a studio biennial, I have no chance of not losing money. No chance. What do I do with that? I take the listing and I put it out for advertising and I sell it anyway. And I lose money and I take the loss because the owner says to me, Ron, I realize you didn't make any money selling that for me, but here's a 2 or 3 words that I want to thank you and give you this testimonial that I can publish or do whatever I like with. And that's my reward for it. So in the end,
Right.
whether a resort extends or doesn't, it's irrelevant.
Well, one question I
I was
have though
wondering,
about, go ahead,
I
Julie,
was
you have
wondering
a,
if I could ask a question before we wrap up.
sure.
So I'm in that whole process of trying to figure out what Oakmont is going to say to me. What should I be listening for? Because, you know, I feel like I'm, first a male talking to a woman, and sometimes they feel like, well, they don't know, so I'm just going to tell them this. So, what should I be listening for? Because Larry called me while we were talking, so he called me back. So, I will be calling him back, hopefully, get through today. What should I be listening for? If he tells me he has a program, what would be a good program
Yes,
versus a bad
yeah,
program? What should I be listening for?
yeah. I've spoken to him. He told me he has a program, and the program is likely some kind of a surrender program, and maybe they have I think they do some resales from what he told me, but without getting into any names or specific resorts or anything. Um, uh, as a consumer, you're the consumer. You would like to terminate your ownership, and they have to try to cover their costs. And what should you listen for? You should listen for, we're going to permanently take it back and you won't have to pay any more maintenance fees. That's the first thing you need to hear. Okay. When you hear that, okay, see what it is that they're going to charge you. They're going to charge you probably a title fee. They're probably going to charge for the attorney. They're going to charge to possibly, I'm guessing, record that deed. It's deeded, right?
Yeah.
It's deeded. Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. So you got to record the new deed, and you got to find the owner, and you got to pay the advertising and the hard costs, and then you got to pay somebody to run the program, or 3 people to run the program. So there are costs involved, and you should be prepared, okay, to reach in your pocket if you want to get out of that obligation. And what I do not recommend for anybody to do is on especially the deeded stuff is to just walk away and leave it, because if you walk away and leave it, what most of these properties are going to do is they're going to report you to the credit bureau, and they're going to call a collection company, and that collection company is going to be after you. So
Wait a minute. Time out. I've been doing this now since 2016, and I'm on about 8 Facebooks where thousands of people have walked away. The worst I've heard on a credit report hit is 38 points compared to 200 points. So when you talk about someone that has no choice, we had an attorney on the show too as well, and he made the statement, if they are going to be so morally irresponsible to expect someone that, especially somebody that's had an adverse life event. Sherida, correct me if I'm wrong, Harborside with Marriott has no resale value. And their maintenance fees have gone up. I think I remember, was it $4,600 a year?
Yeah, it's pretty high.
Yeah. So nobody's going to want to buy a timeshare with a maintenance fee of $4,600 a year. Marriott has also been very good about foreclosures. They tell you, I've actually been on the phone where they tell you to miss a few payments, and then they will issue you a deed in lieu of foreclosure. So a deed in lieu of foreclosure, some people don't even know what that is. They think
The
they're going to
non-judicial, it's a non-judicial process.
yeah, and they instead of foreclosure. So yeah, I mean, of course we want to do what's right. We want to, but there are some people that have no choice but to walk away. So go ahead and continue from that point on if you can remember where we were. But I also want to say, Julie, that if Oakmont has a program and they would like to be a guest on this show to explain their program, that would be a perfect follow-up for this show. I might even be able to convince Ron to come back on with Larry and talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. Red Week is something.
I'm not. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say Red Week is something that you had talked about, Ron. So I did look at Red Week, and they have 2 Oakmonts in there, one for $1 and one for $1,000, and they're not. I don't know how long they've been on there because I can't tell if there's.
So you can see who's desperate and who's not.
Yeah, and I had a Timeshare Exit company that I hired. Luckily, got my money back, but for 3 years, I couldn't get my money back. That was in the contract, and they explained to me they had 2 buyers at one time, but Oakmont turned them down. So Oakmont had to approve of the buyer that this timeshare release company that I hired found. And I thought, well, what is it? Why would they approve it? Why would they approve it? So it's just like I feel like I'm going to maybe talk in circles with them, but I hope not.
Well, I know since your exit company is a company that is not so legitimate, that they're called Viking ships, where the Vikings would put their dead on ships and set it on fire and set it out to sea. So that's what they call these exit companies that try to transfer to fictitious LLCs or a homeless person. You find a homeless person. Would you like to have a nice vacation? When your maintenance fees are current this year, knowing full well that they are not going to pay the maintenance fees. So Florida actually passed a law that you cannot transfer to someone that doesn't intend to pay the maintenance fees. Shelley is with us. We only have 5 minutes. Hi, Shelley.
Hi there. How are you? It took me a little while to get things sorted out so I could actually hear and talk.
Okay, and this is Sheridan is in northern Minnesota, not far from you. And where are you in Canada? Where are you in Canada?
Oh, I'm actually in BC, currently at the airport, but I live in Ontario, so I'm just kind of in transit today.
You remember Barrie, Carriage Hills, Carriage Ridge, the Wyndham properties that converted to whole use ownership. Okay, so Ron, this is the person I was telling you about that I read before you were on with us, Shelley, that they had a sunset and they extended it. Go ahead. We only have about 3 or 4 minutes left. And your situation where they told you to find an attorney, even though you had counted on that 25 years, you signed a contract for 25 years. Why will they not let you out?
So the contract was for 25 years, and then I guess something with the development decided that they would increase it to 35 years. So I didn't really get a say in this, but my original contract was that the ownership would be null and void after, it's actually 35 years. And they extended it to 45 years. So my family has owned this thing since 1990, and now on the hook for another 10 years.
And they're offering no the people that don't want to extend, there's no option.
No. So I actually called the resort, and funny enough, the woman there kind of gave me a little bit of insight. She said, transfer to someone that's going to pass away and that it doesn't follow in the estate.
Isn't that sad? And there's some that have named
Yeah.
their developer as the beneficiary to it. I said, no, 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 that's not going to work either. I mean, this is so sad. Ron, shouldn't there be some kind of, it almost sounds like eminent domain or something where you sign a contract for 25 years or 35 years. And isn't there any value to that contract she signed?
It's hard to hear, but I think in general, sounds like somebody wanted to extend it because they enjoy going to this particular resort. Your option is to get it sold and/or get them to put it through their resale or relinquishment program. And if they don't do that, then they're remiss. And I would ask them to take it back. And if you don't want to use it anymore, then go ahead and make that clear to them.
Yeah. So
What resort is it?
Lifetime of Vacations.
Lifetime. Oh, that's DM Management Sherida Vacation Village.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, they're that's one of those,
So-
Ron, where you just have to walk away.
So I called them, and they said that they didn't have any exit programs, and that essentially they had so many in foreclosure or that were not being paid, but that the company couldn't afford to put them through foreclosure.
Are you kidding?
Yeah. So they're not going into foreclosure anytime soon.
But one of the things that for everybody to keep in mind is that a judicial foreclosure is much more expensive, I believe, than a quick claim back to them. And if they can do a non-judicial take back or foreclosure, then that's much cheaper for them to. And perhaps they recognize that. And if they recognize that, then that's one avenue that you might explore with them.
No, they will. We've had, and it's just since last Monday's show, we've had, in addition to Shelley, 4 other vacation village people that, we're all told the same thing. So it's unfortunate. It looks like we're about out of time. We went a minute over. So I want to thank everybody. This has been a really good show to have real life people. And then to have Ron, you really are a legend in this industry.
Thanks for your information.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. And my collaborator for many years was Charles Thomas. We still have. My computer is a little bit off from the. Oh, we started 3 minutes later, so that's why we probably still have another minute. But I collaborated for several years with Charles Thomas, who is on Gran Canaria. And the Canary Islands are like Florida for us over here, right? And Spain has declared timeshare points illegal. So there were 2 court cases, and you worked on Tenerife, so I thought that's amazing. That you spent some time on. You actually lived on the Canary Islands too for a while.
I did for a year. Yep.
Okay, so, and this show is a fluid, this is like real reality TV show. So Julie is in the midst of her situation. Shelley is in the midst of her situation. So we're going to follow along with both of you. And Sherida will follow along with your Vacation Village campaign to try to talk some sense into these people and talk to somebody like Ron Roberts or Lemon Juice Capital. I know one person that Vacation Village did take it back, but it was quite an uphill battle. So we are able to, sometimes accomplish things, but what we're really trying to do is promote a healthy secondary market. And Sherida, you have any words of wisdom for us for any hot deals on a Marriott timeshare if we want to buy one? Because you do look
a
in
lot
rental.
of good ones. We have good ones, a lot of monarchs for sale, and I guess those are people really like those. But I did rent a week at Crystal Shores in Florida and made enough money. The man used 5,800 points, and we made enough for him to cover his maintenance fees on that one. So,
Oh, okay. And what are the Monarch? What is Monarch?
they're on Hilton Head Island. So you've got Grand Ocean and Monarch. They're the biggest ones, and then there's a Surf Watch. People especially like to rent Grand Ocean, but there's a lot of people who love their Monarchs and have had them for years, and they don't go through the right of refusal with Marriott. So if someone wants to buy a Monarch, it goes right away to the closers, and it doesn't get pulled out from under them by Marriott.
And that's something we didn't talk about, Ron, was right of first refusal. Marriott exercises right of first refusal, which somebody thinks is a bad thing, but it actually seems to support the stock price. I mean, I couldn't believe that in the brief stint I had working in Marriott,
they do a good job, and they have a valid solution for a lot of consumers, and so don't most of these brands. They do a good job. In general, the programs are a little different, but in general, they're a valid solution. And if you have some hardship of some description, then those people are surely willing to help. In general, they know that it's in everybody's best interest to take care of the people who have some reason to not want to own the property anymore.
and there were two that they listed their show for 10,000, and people came in and offered 11,000, so Marriott wouldn't gobble up those good weeks. Well, I see Mark is back with us. Our regular co-host Kim is in Greece, so we got a little bit of a late start today. But Mark, I just want to thank you for bailing us out here and being our producer today.
Oh, no problem at all. As y'all can tell, I'm actually on the bus heading to my next stop because I work a variety of jobs and everything. So I'm actually on my way to the Cultural Arts Center that I work at and everything. But I'll close y'all out and everything like that. But yeah, I'm doing that on a rainy day. So I'm actually here on the bus to get ready to end y'all's show. But y'all are having a rich conversation as always. So I'm here to play the banner to get us on out of here. But definitely it was a fun conversation, and I was listening to it even while monitoring going from point A to point B, because as you know, as an activist and a entrepreneur, you oftentimes have to find your place in various locations, just like you're in New York City and everything. So I was literally traveling from one place, the home front, to the cultural center that I work at. So we're going to get on out of here with this timeshare outro and everything, but great show.
Hey, the computer.
Are we done?
Okay.
Really?
Still staying on? What are we doing?
I guess I'm leaving.
Julie
I
and
thought
Trina,
she said-
if you have any reason, please feel free to call me, and if I can offer any further advice.
Okay.
I hope everything we had
Thank
for you
you.
today was helpful in some fashion, and hopefully you agreed with some of it. And if there's any way that we can help further, please